I am going to respond to Epicurus's famous argument against the existence of an all good and all powerful God. But before I do, allow me to read to you what his argument is. Is God willing to prevent evil, but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able, but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? So his argument is essentially if God is all powerful, then he cannot be all good. And if he's all good, then he cannot be all powerful. And the reason is because if he were all powerful, meaning he could stop all evil and suffering, and he is all good, meaning he wants to stop all evil and suffering, then since all evil and suffering exist, then God is not all good or he is not all powerful. And this is a nice argument, I guess. ChatGPT says that this argument is considered one of the strongest philosophical objections to belief in an all powerful, all good God. And while that may be true, when it says that it's considered one of the strongest arguments, you have to understand that that's relative. In other words, if you have a whole bunch of weak arguments, if you pick the strongest of those weak arguments, it may be the strongest argument of the weak arguments, but that doesn't actually mean that it is in fact a strong argument. Epicurus's argument is in fact a weak argument, and it is built on a logical fallacy, the fallacy of selective attention. You might know this fallacy as the fallacy of cherry picking. Epicurus, he focuses in on the fact that God is all good and God is all powerful, and from these two things, he builds his whole argument. But he conveniently leaves out the fact that God is all knowing. This immediately makes it impossible for us to accurately judge God. So here's how we judge God. We say, if I were God, all good and all powerful, then I would do X. And that's nice of us to say that, but we say this not having all knowledge. So again, if I were God, all good and all powerful, then I would get rid of all evil and suffering. But again, we don't have all knowledge, and so that's a problem. So I'm going to demonstrate this. If I were to ask you, would you like to, if you could go back in time and relive your life, would you do it? Most people say yes, and the reason they say that is because they're like, look, if I could take the knowledge that I have now and go back and relive my childhood and my youth and my young adulthood, etc., I would be able to make better decisions. Having more knowledge, I would be able to make better decisions. Okay, exactly. Now you see the problem with Epicurus's argument. God actually has all knowledge, and what this does is it enables him to make better decisions. Okay? Having all knowledge drastically changes everything. People like to put God in a box and judge him by the box that they put him in, but God knows everything. He's not in any box that you could possibly put him in. He knows infinitely more than you, and he's better fitted to make decisions than you are, intelligent decisions. So here's my claim. My claim is that God knew that evil and suffering could not be prevented. In fact, what he did is he traced every action and reaction of all created things throughout all of time and eternity. And he's like, you know what? Nope. There's actually no way for evil and suffering to not exist in any of the courses, any of the infinite number of courses that the universe can run through. It's going to exist no matter what. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select the course for the universe to go through that is the least painful possible and that will effectively and eternally terminate all evil and suffering. And that is what he did. God, seeing everything, knowing the end from the beginning, knew that evil was going to exist, and he found a way to make sure that it can be eternally terminated. Okay, so let me go ahead and sum this up. Epicurus's argument is nice and all, but it's relatively weak. Well, it's actually founded on a logical fallacy, the fallacy of selective attention, or if you want to call it cherry picking. It conveniently ignores the fact that God is all-knowing, which drastically changes everything, because you and I will both admit that when we have more knowledge, we're fitted to make better and more intelligent decisions, to the point that if we could go back in time, we would go relive our life with the more knowledge so we could build a better life for ourselves by making better decisions. Well, God literally has all knowledge. he can get it right the first time. And so you have to expect, yeah, he might do things differently than us who don't know much of squat. Like that's a serious thing, right? So God having all knowledge, he knew that evil was going to exist no matter what, and suffering was going to exist no matter what. So he's like, you know what? Let's make it to where it's the least painful for everybody possible, the most amount of people are saved as possible, and we can eternally terminate all evil and suffering forever. You can see that this is where he's going with this. If you look at Nahum 1:7 or Revelation 21, I think it's verse 4, where God wipes away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So you can see this is where he's going with it. And having all knowledge, he knows the most effective way to get there. So, yep. And one thing I do want to point out from all this here at the end is that this is actually why God makes faith the requirement of salvation. Because if you go back to the book of Genesis, evil came into our world. Evil and suffering came into our world when Eve started doubting God. The serpent said, "Did God really say this? You shall not surely die." And so Eve started doubting God. There was no trust there. And this lack of trust led into sin and suffering. And so, in order to effectively and permanently and eternally secure the universe from all evil and suffering, there has to be trust. We have to trust God. So, God doesn't give us exhaustive knowledge about himself and all his dealings. We do not have the mental capacity to soak all that in, being finite beings, but he does give us enough evidence to demonstrate that he does care for us. He is wise. We can trust him. And he needs us to, so that way we can be part of his kingdom and won't go around questioning and doubting in his clean universe and messing things up all over again. So Epicurus's argument is trash. Nothing against him. It's just the argument's great, but you built with only two pieces of information. You conveniently ignore a piece of information that drastically changes everything, and which, when you ignore that piece of information, you're building your whole argument on a logical fallacy. This is not even a hard logical fallacy. This is a fallacy that they teach children because it's a relatively novice level. It's easy to understand. You're just kind of like taking the information you want to use and like leaving out the information you don't want to use. So this is like I understand like the argument, but like it's literally built on novice level fallacy. So just remember, the more you know, the better fitted you are to make intelligent decisions. Kind of blows his whole argument out of the water. So hope you all enjoyed that piece. I am looking for new faces on my podcast. So if you are interested in debating me or having a discussion or playing apologetic mocks trials, I would love to have you on the show. Just get in contact with me. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.